Dedede is going to get a lot of mileage kind of off of the inhales, unfortunately, because of the... He can inhale missile and charge shot and just shoot it back out to like even faster as well. So I feel like inhale is going to do a lot of mileage. So unless... but inhale is pretty laggy too, so who knows? Maybe qwil's got a couple of ideas in his head of like how to sort of mix up the inhales to his advantage, especially if it's like inhaling his own missile or inhaling charge shot. I do feel like this is a match that could go either way, but where did the charge shot go in that one? He didn't shield either, but he did take damage.
Yeah, that was a little interesting.
An interesting interaction. But regardless, I was going to say, this is a match that could go either way, especially with those ledge traps. He has recovered, but...
oh, he does not have a jump here. Yeah, that's tough.
I feel... If he went back for the bomb bounce, do you think he could have potentially recovered?
I think it's really hard with Schu standing there with that huge hammer just swinging it at you.
Yes, but it seems like the angle he was swinging it at, if he tethered back a little bit, he could have avoided the backswing.
Potentially.
And yeah, it was a rough start, a rough initial start, but qwil is just constantly pelting him with charge shots to just get a nice kill off of, to just get like a nice percentage off of him. Jet Hammer again. We do see Schu now using Jet Hammer more, where I was saying I wish he would use it more against Sphinx a couple sets ago. He's not using it more in his advantage and just sort of walling him off stage.
Yeah, it seems really difficult for qwil to get back from ledge.
I feel like Samus has the stage advantage and Dedede has the ledge advantage, or like offstage advantage.
Yeah, I would agree. He has big hitboxes that are very scary to deal with, especially as someone like Samus, who is wall heavy, a bit floaty. So it's not that difficult to try to find the right angle and to throw it at.
She is also like a bit smaller in frame. While she is tall, she is a bit sort of slimmer in frame, whereas Dedede is just a ball. However, when we're off stage, we do see Deanna over here is the one capitalizing off stage, which, as we were saying, he is very good at ledge trapping and edge guarding, and especially if you're getting walled off like that, what can you necessarily do in this situation against him?
Ooh, and a great up B, calling out the double jump from the King Dedede. I don't really know if there's that much King Dedede could do in that situation, but...
I feel like just not recovering high, I feel like, because in my eyes, he was kind of looked where qwil is getting very desperate. He's on his last stock, it's like 100%. He's just trying to like get playing a lot of catch up. So I feel like, and PS2's ceiling is relatively low, because for reference, I know Mario can kill with up air, up B off the top. It is possible for him to kill off the top. So because I kind of know the ceiling's a little low.
Yeah.
So I feel like Schu maybe shouldn't have like recovered high, especially with a very powerful up B tool like Samus's.
And we see that while Schu did have the early lead, qwil is slowly bringing it back. A lot of it is on ledge. Ooh,
but very nice. He reflected go back with charge shot. Schu catches it, but then qwil follows it up with the Zair, which is very smart of him. But then he went for grab.
Yeah.
I feel like that was maybe going for charge shot.
Yeah, I think if the charge shot was shot there,
he wouldn't have died.
Outcome,
he wouldn't have died, but he would clearly been off stage. I think that's the game here. You just kind of mess around and play around Gordo and Inhale.
Yeah.
To capitalize off of Demon. To capitalize off of Schu and his like sort of play style. And we did see elements of qwil doing it. It's just that whenever qwil's off stage, Dedede can kind of go off kind of far, and especially just since his vertical is so good, he can just make a wall vertically and just block off any opponents from coming in a certain like sort of length.
Yeah, these matches are going to be decided based on how often either opponent is really stuck at ledge and how...
Or just stuck in disadvantage in general.
Yeah, that is...
their own disadvantage states.
Very true, very true.
We see charge shot again, reflecting that Gordo. But we were talking about disadvantage states. Dedede is still on stage, so he's still kind of getting tossed around a little bit, unfortunately, to the point where qwil is coming out on top a little bit here. He's anticipating charge shot and he wants to inhale it, but qwil is just not going to accept that. Also, qwil tossing out bombs, so Schu over here wouldn't necessarily fall, or like if he tries to up air through the platform, he will still get hit and damaged by it, and it wouldn't connect all the way, which is very smart of him to do.
But at the same time, qwil is also standing under the PS2 platform, making it really hard for DN to really get any ground.
Was that the Gordo that reflected back and hit him? Because it...
I think it was, but to be honest, I think with Schu at 160%,
he would have died to that up air regardless. True. Very, very rough angle with the Gordo, but still alive. qwil over here just trying to get as much free credit as possible. And you know what? 85? Pretty good amount.
Not bad.
85 is a pretty respectable amount of free credit, but as we see earlier, Schu could easily, you know, turn it back in his advantage as well after this.
But it seems like qwil is kind of just running away with it a little. Of course, just as I say it.
Commentators curse, we love to hear it. But
qwil is still definitely set up to, is in a great position for this match.
he can afford to finally lose that stock. He had a 148 of extra credit. And I feel like now, compared to the last game is now, we can see qwil. The thing I also like about qwil is qwil adapts very quickly to situations as well. He can adapt to a situation kind of quick, and especially like in between games where it's almost, I want to say, instantaneous. So he kind of pivoted quick, he realized his mistakes, and now he's like capitalizing off of all of this. So now we see DN kind of struggling a little bit. Even if qwil isn't landing hits, Schu is still kind of struggling due to qwil's sort of spacing as well in the position. But Schu is getting some momentum back, getting a little bit of those hits back.
Yeah, but with Samus back on center stage, it is going to be a lot harder for Schu to
capitalize off of this.
Yes.
He's fishing for grabs. He wants that up throw because he knows it'll kill him.
Schu at 200% right now. Ooh, the Phantom footstool actually getting him out of the fair.
Very lucky, man. He is just fishing for those grabs. The thing I don't... Very nice catching the jump, but the thing I do want to say, even though I was saying qwil adapts very well, he's... Sometimes he can get a little greedy, at least with Samus from what I'm seeing. He's getting a little greedy at like the higher percentages, because there was like what, 3-4 missed grabs?
Yeah.
He just couldn't necessarily hit, and he just couldn't land it, and then he just like lost the stock eventually. And then DN now had his string where now, like I was saying earlier, DN could easily turn it around, and here we see, you know, he is now made it back with like 50 percentage point lead, but qwil is trying to close the gap as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and with DN on the ledge, this is pretty scary, but he manages to get back.
I feel like DN could have up aired there when qwil was right above him, and it could have been game right there. He could have moved on to game 3, but he didn't. And now they are, again, Schu's behind, but Schu is a heavyweight.
Ooh, and the Gordo kills.
Schu is behind and Schu is a heavyweight, meaning he has rage, and that happens.
I don't even know if DI would have really saved that. Of course, it didn't kill Spark or kill Screen or anything, but I feel like Gordo almost never does.
I feel like the velocity of that was just going too fast to the point where, yeah, DI would not save it. But what can we do? Excuse me, people are yawning a little too much.
And we see the Dark Samus again from qwil sticking to his gut.
Maybe back to Dark Samus. Maybe due to the air dodge, or maybe due to the lower charge shot as well. to maybe catch Schu a little bit off ledge.
Yeah, ooh, unluckily.
That's very unfortunate. That Gordo just still stuck around for too long.
Yeah, the fair not strong enough to send it back, which is honestly a pretty rare thing to say about Dedede Gordo, considering almost anything sends it back.
True, you're right. Anything would send it back. But the thing I've been saying with all of these sets so far, I would say, ooh, you know what? Never mind. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. Every time I try to say something,
Yeah, something
like, oh, it's even, or oh, these guys are playing with such good neutral every single time. It's just the constant commentator's curse that'll just come back and bite me with everything. Nice stall from
Stalls
qwil.
for the air dodge, but sadly, ooh,
Very nice spike. Very nice spike from qwil over here, trying to stop Schu's advantage as quickly as possible.
And of course, for qwil, there is a bit of a mountain to climb, but as Samus, it's not the hardest thing to do. It's definitely possible.
Excuse me. And damn, I'm very sleepy. He has climbed this mountain before. He has done this before, so it is not unusual for us to see him come back from this. But again,
I mean, we saw it first game, even though, of course, qwil wasn't able to close it out, he still was able to make it back from such a huge deficit.
yes, which is why. But honestly, this match could go either way, because both of these players are not only very skilled. We've seen it through this set alone. How I would say it's fairly even between the both of these players. But I still see qwil maybe getting a little too aggressive and a little too antsy. Maybe trying to close the gap a little too hard.
Yeah, we saw that honestly pretty greedy charge shot into dash attack, which does combo if the charge shot hits, but...
Yeah, and then we see another charge shot point blank, to the point where, and here's that wall I was talking about, where Dedede can just kind of wall you off and try and prevent your recovery. DN seems like Schu seems like he not only has the momentum.
And with the mistech, there goes the set. But honestly, that was a great showing from qwil in my opinion. It was.
It was.
And while, of course, the score doesn't